Power generation industry is another critical aspect of the process technology areas. We're going to look at power from a couple of different perspectives. We're going to look at power as a utility to other processing industries such as the refinery or natural gas processing plant or even Dorada Foods. You need to get electricity from the source of generation to the ultimate user. However, if you look around Kate County, we have a lot of new power generation activities. There's the Sooner plant, which is down in Noble County, and that's a coal-fired electric generation plant. Then we also have a lot of new wind energy. Wind energy plants are another area for power distribution. And then we've got hydroelectric at Caw Dam. So we actually have 3 or 4 different types of power generation. As you go through the chapter, you're going to see some key words. There's things like alternating current and direct current. Direct current is that current that is run continuously in one direction. Your laptop computers, your cell phones, your flashlight batteries, all of those are going to run off a direct current. What comes out of the wall is alternating current, and that is a cyclic current that goes back and forth. Alternating current deals with long distance transmission because it doesn't lose as much energy over the lines. When we deal with electric distribution, we have the segments that produce electricity. Those are things like coal, gas, oil, hydroelectric, wind, solar, geothermal, nuclear. That's the fuel that's used to spin the turbine or the generator that's creating the mechanical work that's going to create the electrical current that goes through the wires. And then we can use that electric current to reverse it back to mechanical work, such as run as an electric motor. So we can go back and forth, which is what makes electricity a nice distribution system. Also in the electric system, you have the distribution system. That means taking it from the plant to the ultimate consumer. And there are 3 phases of that. One is the power generation. So we're going to use that segment type of activity, the oil, gas, the coal, that spins the turbine. We're going to fire it up, we're going to use a boiler, we're going to use the steam to turn a turbine, and then we're going to create the mechanical energy that will ultimately create the electrical energy that goes forward. That partition is a segment that's associated with the fuel driven. Once we get it generated, then we have to get it from the generation plant to the ultimate user, and that's through our electric transmission lines, much like transportation would be in the oil and gas industry. So we're going to transmit those lines through the transmission lines. Typically that's done at high voltage. So those big high voltage power lines are there. Then we go through a station where we're going to step the high voltage down to a voltage that we can use in our houses. And then we have the distribution system that allows us to actually use that electrical energy. So you can imagine that your role as a process technician is going to be a little bit different than what you would see in the chemical or oil and gas, but there'll be some similarities. For example, let's take how that electricity is generated. We're going to use some sort of fuel. We typically will use that fuel to heat a boiler to generate steam. The steam will blow the steam through and create mechanical work to turn a turbine or through a generator. And if I'm doing hydroelectric, I'm using the falling water to do that generation to turn that turbine. And then we're going to generate that electricity. So I might have some of the same pieces of equipment. I might have a generator, I might have a boiler, I might have that furnace or that firing equipment, very similar to what I might have at a refinery or at a gas plant or at my chemical plant. So you're going to have similar types of jobs. At the refinery, I'm also going to have electricians that are going to deal with that electricity. So I might have similar types of process jobs that deal with managing the electrical system inside a refinery or inside of a chemical plant or another side of process plant that I would at my power generation. But then let's take it another step. I'm going to deal with turbines, I'm going to deal with windmills, I may deal with solar energy, I may deal with a lot of different things doing my power generation, and I may have to do some other pieces like dealing with some of the hazards. High voltage is going to be a hazard. I'm going to have to look at electrocution. I'm going to have to make sure I've got the proper equipment. So while I may have the same types of roles and responsibilities, I'm going to have some different emphasis and focus in power generation than I would, say, at the refinery. So So hopefully what you've got here before you is this PowerPoint presentation. It's going to give you your key objectives, the things you really need to be looking for in the chapter. It's giving you your key terms. Look at the different segments of the power generation industry. We've talked about the one that's based off of the fuel, and we've talked about the one that's based off of where I'm taking that electricity from point A to point B. As you read the chapter, look at the differences in the job duties. The equipment's going to be very similar. So when you do your homework problems, you're going to see some of the same types of things. Now, because power generation is such a new industry in our area, I've also provided you some information from the Center for Energy Workforce Development. They've given you a brochure about how important the power generation industry is, and that's very up-to-date information. So I strongly encourage you to go look at that information as well, and look at that website to see what kinds of job opportunities are there. There's some nice career pathways to look at. There's a whole bunch of information on that website. So please explore that website. So where we're at the moment is now you've done oil and gas, you've done chemical processing, and you've got just a brief overview of the power generation industry. Look at your PowerPoints, do your homework, make sure you answer your discussion questions, and we'll get that interaction going back and forth. Hopefully you're working on your local employer reports, because that's our next step, is we're going to discuss those local employers, and then next week we're going to just cover wastewater and wastewater treatment, or water and water treatment, because that's another area that's kind of a utility in some facilities, but it's its own industry as well. So good luck, ask any questions that you have, and we'll see you soon.